Hi, I'm Jimmy Chang, and we're here to talk about the difference between even and inverse functions. Now, even and inverse functions are actually very different because they both do different things. So let's talk about what even functions do. Now, even functions, they have the property of f of negative x equals to f of x. Now, what does that actually mean? That means if you incorporate and substitute negative x in place of x, it actually will not affect the function itself. So, for example, if you have the function f of x is equal to x squared, if you put negative x in its place, you're going to have negative x quantity squared. But as you know, if you have a negative number squared, that's still going to give you positive. So what happens here is that the negative has no bearing whatsoever on the original function. So that's what an even function does, is when negative value in place of the original value will not affect the original function. So that's what an even function does. And it also has what's known as y-axis symmetry. Now, an inverse function is completely different. An inverse function has notation f negative 1 of x. Now, you're not raising it to the negative 1 power per se, but the inverse function is really a function that's opposite the original. So what it is that reverses the operations of f of x. So basically, if you have the function, let's just say, was x squared, then the inverse function of that would be square root of x. Now, not every function is even, and not every function has an inverse, so that there's where the similarities may lie, and that is not one of each for every function. But the differences between the two are very, very stark. Even function deals with negatives, and inverse function, even though there is a negative there, it's completely different. It reverses the operations of the original using the order of operations. And there's a process to find the inverse function as well. So I'm Jimmy Chang, and that talks about the differences between an even and an inverse function.